You're listening to School Leadership Reimagined, episode number 28.
Welcome to the School Leadership Reimagined podcast, where we rethink what's possible to transform your school. If you're tired of settling for small wins and incremental improvement, then stay tuned to discover powerful and practical strategies for getting every teacher in your school moving towards excellence. Now, here's your host, Robin Jackson.
Hey Builders, welcome to another episode of School Leadership Reimagined. I'm your host, Robin Jackson, and today we're going to talk about something we almost never discuss. It's your master schedule. Now, most of us treat our master schedules like a necessary evil. It's something that we just have to get through. I mean, sure, we know it's important, but come on, with all of the staffing equations and the computer software and the deadlines and all the other work we have to do, it's kind of a pain. So that's the obstacle. But here's the opportunity. Your master schedule is one of the most powerful ways that you have to realize your vision, to live out your core values, and to keep your school on mission. So today, we're going to talk about how you can transform your master scheduling process from a chore that you kind of dread doing to a powerful, meaningful process that helps you live out your vision, your mission, and your core values, and then also recreate your school culture and keep everybody focused on and achieving your school goals. And by the time you're finished with this episode, you'll know exactly how to rock your master schedule like a builder. But before we dive in, let's talk about Builders Lab for a second, shall we? Because if you're frustrated that you're working with a teacher or a group of teachers who seem to be getting in the way of your achieving your goals this school year right now, then you need to come to Builders Lab. If you're hitting an obstacle and you're stuck and you're trying to figure out how are you still going to be able to achieve those goals that you wrote this summer and how you're going to achieve them this year, you need to come to Builders Lab. Because quite frankly, here's the truth. If you're going to move your school, you have to move the people in it, period. And there are really only 4 ways that you can successfully move people forward. And that's either through feedback, support, accountability, or culture. They're the 4 disciplines of buildership. Well, at Builders Lab, you're going to spend the first 2 days learning how to apply those 4 disciplines to get everybody in your school moving consistently and willingly towards your school goals. Even that teacher who fights you every step of the way, or that teacher who struggles so badly in the classroom that you already have given up on that teacher. You feel like there's no hope. At Builders Lab, you're going to learn how to leverage feedback, support, accountability, and culture so that you can get everybody moving. And then on day 3 of Builders Lab, you're going to develop a 90-day plan that's going to take everything that you've learned in the 2 days and put it into action immediately so that you can go back to your school, you can get people moving immediately, and you can get people moving towards your goals this year. You don't have to put it off. You don't have to wait. So here's what you need to do. You need to go to mindstepsinc.com/builders-lab and get your tickets today, right now. The more you wait, the more you are going to continue to face the frustration of being stuck and having your school initiatives held hostage by a few people who aren't buying in. But when you make the decision to come to Builders Lab and you get your ticket and you show up, you will find out how to get those people moving so that everybody in your building is focused on your school goals and your vision and your mission. They've all bought in. They're all working consistently towards that. All of your teachers are improving. Everybody is focused in the same direction. The culture that you've been struggling with for years is healed. And now you have a healthy culture where before you had a toxic culture. All of that's going to happen when you learn these tools at Builders Lab. So again, go to mindstepsinc.com/builders-lab and get your tickets today, right now, and then get ready to discover how to get everybody who works in your school or your district on board and moving towards your school goals. That's mindstepsinc.com/builders-lab. And I'll make sure that I put a link in the show notes. Okay, let's talk master schedules. You know, I'll be honest with you. I debated a long time about whether or not I was even going to do a show on master schedules. It's something that we do to support our coaching clients because a lot of times when I walk into a school and they tell me what their school core values, mission, and vision are, I say, okay, let me see your master schedule. And I can tell very, very quickly whether or not those core values, vision, and mission are alive in that school based on looking at a school's master schedule. It's a litmus test. But, it's not a sexy topic. Are people really going to want to listen to a podcast about it? And, a lot of what we do with our clients is we help get everything in their school aligned. So we start out with their core values, their mission, and their vision. And then we look at all the aspects of their school culture and make sure that everything that they're doing is aligned with that. And so we have a very kind of step-by-step process we take them through for their, to help them with their whole master scheduling process. And originally I thought, well, maybe I'll do a podcast about that because it's really powerful, but it's really hard to translate into a podcast. And if you go through the steps in the process and you don't have a different kind of master scheduling mindset, then that process is not going to serve you very well. So what I decided to do today is instead of talking about the step-by-step, month-by-month activities that you need to be doing for your master schedule, I thought what I would do is I would share with you 3 big mindset shifts that we have to make around our master schedule in order to make that process more powerful and meaningful in our schools. So let's start with the first mindset shift, and that's this. Your master schedule is not created by one person. Your master schedule is crafted by an entire team. Now, what do I mean by that? You see, a lot of people assign the master schedule to a single person. You lock them in a room and they crank out the master schedule. And if you're that person, you have my biggest sympathies. Or principals take on the master schedule entirely by themselves and they squeeze it in when they have time. Very rarely is the master scheduling process seen as a team effort. And so I want to talk to you briefly about what I mean by a team effort. I'm not suggesting that you only have a master scheduling team where you have a master scheduler and a backup and maybe your, resource guidance counselor, your head guidance counselor. No, what I'm talking about with a master scheduling team is that you involve your entire leadership team in the master scheduling process, which means that you're going to include not just your master scheduler and your backup master scheduler and your head guidance counselor, but all of the guidance counselors in your school, if there's more than one, and all of your team leaders and or department chairs. They are all a part of that master scheduling conversation. What I used to do when I was the master scheduler is I would schedule a master scheduling retreat. I know it sounds superfluous, but hear me out. I would pay for subs for half a day, and I would take people either off-site or we would go to the bowels of our school, into the forgotten recesses of our school and that room, and we'd lock the door and we pretend that we were away and we tell the main office we are not here. And for a half a day, we would sit down and we would hash out the guiding principles of our master schedule. That meant that as a team, we would revisit our core values, our vision, and our mission, and we would talk about what does that mean in terms of the kind of school that we are trying to build. We'd revisit the strategic plan that we created over the summer and start to say, is this still true? Now that we're halfway through the school year, what are things that need to be addressed? What are the issues that are coming up that we may not think about over the summer, but we need to be thinking about right now while we're in the midst of this work so that we can shape a master schedule that is more aligned with our core values, our mission, and our vision. And so that's how we did that process. And we also kind of hashed out a decision tree. So, a lot of times the math department would, make an impassioned case for why we need to have certain math classes at first period and that they needed to have the last period of the day off for planning. Or we might have the 6th grade team make an impassioned plea for why they needed the master schedule to look a certain way so that they could do more integrated interdisciplinary lessons or whatever. Everybody had their own silos and their own agendas because it was based on what they were doing in the school. And if you don't have that meeting and you don't bring everybody to the table, those individual agendas begin to drive your master schedule, and they also drive people's satisfaction with your master schedule. People look at the master schedule and they determine this is a good or a bad schedule based only on their lens, their perspective. But when you have that master scheduling retreat where you get everybody around the table, then you can talk about everybody's perspective. You can hear out everybody. Everybody else can hear everybody else's perspective. And then you walk out of that meeting in agreement. These are the priorities for our master schedule this year. I remember the first year I did it, everybody came to the table with their individual, kind of needs and agendas. They were ready to make a case for it. And we walked out of that meeting with everybody agreed around how we were going to do the master schedule, that the master schedule was going to be driven by our core values, vision, and mission. So when I put out the first version of the master schedule to the team later on that year, people weren't, giving me the stink eye because their particular need wasn't fulfilled with my master schedule. They didn't get their first period off, or they have a class at this time when they know, when I know that that's, the time where they usually kind of, lag and really need coffee and, all the things that kind of normally drove their dissatisfaction. They weren't there anymore because it was very clear that the master schedule aligned with our vision, mission, and core values. And in fact, I could make that case for the master schedule. And even if people weren't personally excited about the master schedule, they could support it because they could see that alignment. So creating that master scheduling team, getting everybody involved in deciding about what is the decision filter that we are going to use to make decisions around our master schedule can not only help create a master schedule that is in alignment with your core values, vision, and mission, but it can also create a master schedule that everybody understands and can support. So that's the first step. The second mindset shift that we need to make as we're thinking about our master schedules is that we need to let our core values, vision, and mission drive our schedule, not our staffing formulas, not all the other things that normally drive our master schedule. And that may mean that you have to blow up your master schedule, especially if you find that it's not in alignment. We often, when we go in and we're doing consulting with some of our school clients, a lot of times we go in and we ask them their core values, vision, and mission, and then we ask to see their master schedule, and it's so out of alignment that we have to just blow up the master schedule and start all over again. So it's a different way of approaching your master schedule. Most of us approach our master schedules. We get a staffing formula. We look at the staff we have on hand. We look at what we have to teach, and then we just try to make those numbers work. And that's why doing the master schedule can feel so tedious. But when you think about the master schedule differently, when you think about this is the most tangible expression of our core values, vision, and mission, it changes how you do the master schedule. I used to keep the master scheduling board. We had a magnetic board. I kept it in my office, and I kept it right across from my desk so that every time I sat down at my desk, I could look at that master scheduling board and it would remind me about what it was we were trying to accomplish in our school. How many of you can say that about your master schedule? How many of you can look at your master schedule and see what it is you are trying to accomplish as a school laid out in your master schedule just by looking at what classes you're offering when, who's teaching what your scheduling configuration looks like? How many of you can see your core values, your vision, and your mission in your master schedule? If the answer is that you can't, then now is the time for you to be rethinking your master scheduling process. Some of you are going to say, well, we don't have core values, or our core values they're on the wall, but they're not they don't apply anymore. Well, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to an episode. I'll link to it in the show notes. The episode we did on core values as non-negotiables and how you can turn your core values into non-negotiables. Because if you do that, if you go through that process and make your core values non-negotiables, a lot of the decisions that you make become a lot more obvious and clear and defensible because your core values have become something that's really alive in your school. And that extends to your master schedule. What we often do is when we sit down to write the master schedule, we don't use as our first filter, what are our core values? What's our vision? What's our mission when we're making decisions? Let me give you an example so you know exactly what I mean. I remember when I was the master scheduler, one of our big visions for our school was that we really wanted to be true to a middle school model. And that meant that we wanted kids to feel nurtured, that we wanted kids to be in community with each other. We had a very large middle school and we didn't want any kid to get lost. So we were trying to figure out how to do that. And one of the things that is an outgrowth of that core value was that we wanted to make sure that our kids were purely teamed. Now, that made it harder because we had some kids in 7th grade who were taking algebra, which meant that they were going to have to take, algebra from a different team because they were in 7th grade and the 7th grade math teachers didn't teach algebra. And there were all of these issues around that. But we kept coming back to how can we keep our kids as purely teamed as possible? And so it created a bigger puzzle for us because we couldn't just kind of throw kids wherever they fit in the master scheduling matrix. We had to be very deliberate about decisions about our kids. But guess what? When we kept to that, we had fewer discipline problems throughout the year. We had kids who were thriving in middle school. We had lots more collaboration and buy-in from the teachers because they were sharing the same kids. I knew my kids better because when I would go to a team meeting, I knew which kids were on the team. So even though I had a ton of kids in the school, I got to know them on a more personal level because they were purely teamed. All of these things happened as a result of making sure that our master schedule was driven by our core values, our mission, and our vision. If we hadn't done that, it would have been a lot harder to live out our core values, vision, and mission throughout the year because our master schedule actually worked against our core values rather than supporting it. So it's really, really important. Yes, it's more of a headache, but guess what? It makes the master scheduling process a lot more meaningful. It's not just about throwing kids into slots in order to fill up all the slots. It's now about tangibly arranging things in a way that's going to support and your core values, your vision, and your mission, and in a way that's going to be meaningful for kids. And I'll tell you what, even though it made the master scheduling process a little bit more difficult because we had to make a lot more meaningful decisions, the guidance counselors and I were way more engaged in the process, and we still finished ahead of time because that system really kind of drove us to find solutions in our master schedule. In fact, the year that we started doing it this way, we were number one in a very large school district for getting in our master scheduling our master schedule into the central office and into the computer on time. And by the time the kids left, we were probably 95%, straight with our master schedule. And then the last 5%, we hand scheduled those kids. And we started the year very, very strongly because our master schedule was supporting the thing that we were trying to do for our students. So first, make sure that you create a master scheduling team. Second, let your core values, vision, and mission drive your master schedule. And here's my third mindset shift. We need to make the master scheduling process a year-round process. A lot of people go through the first half of the year, look up in December and say, oh, shoot, we have to do some articulation. Let it go. January, they scramble to kind of do some things. Then testing happens and we get really busy. And then we think, okay, well, I'll finish the master schedule after the teachers leave. And then our master schedule is ad hoc, last minute, incomplete, shoddy, sloppy, and it's a mess. Instead, you need to be thinking about your master's schedule as a year-long process. One of the things that we do with the schools that we consult in or coach in is that we give them a calendar breakdown so that every single month they know this is what we need to be doing to work on our master schedule for this month. So your master scheduling process doesn't begin and end. It is consistently happening all throughout the school year. I told you about how in my office, I kept the master schedule on the wall opposite of my desk. We didn't put it in a conference room somewhere. It was on my wall. And all year long, as we're working through the school year, we're seeing what needs to be tweaked on our master schedule, and I'm keeping a running list. So when we have that master scheduling meeting sometime in the fall, usually in October or November, we already have a list of things that need to be tweaked with the master schedule, things that are working, things that we need to be doing more of, things that we need to be doing less of. And so we can get our master schedule in on time, which affects our staffing, which affects who we hire in the spring. You know, if your master schedule isn't at least partially completed by the time hiring season happens, then how do you know you're hiring the right people? Because you don't even know who you need yet. If your master schedule isn't at least partially completed before teachers leave, how can you give teachers a good clue about what they'll be teaching when they return so that teachers have the summer to really adjust and think about their students and come back and be ready to hit the ground running? If you don't have your master schedule at least mostly complete before kids leave, how do you know how to counsel kids and direct kids and prepare kids for the following year when you're not even sure what it is they're going to be taking? So it's a year-round process. It's not something that you can put off and do and just get out of the way. It is something you are constantly thinking about all throughout the year. It is something that you are working on specifically every single month, because you can't treat your master schedule like a task that needs to be done. You have to treat it like an integral part of your strategic planning process. What is it that we want to accomplish this year? What is it we want to accomplish next year? How do we arrange our schedule to best accomplish that? By the time you sit down and develop your strategic plan in the summer, you've already completed your master schedule. And so you're constrained by the decisions that you made the year before. And that's really, really backwards. What you want to do is, if your master schedule is a constant part of the conversation and it's a constant part of the process, when you make strategic plans, your strategic planning piece doesn't just start in the summer. It started the year before, during the school year, while you were still thinking about your master schedule. You created a master schedule that was directly aligned with and that directly supports the strategic plan you have for the year. We do them backwards. We do the master schedule during the school year. We do the strategic plan after the master schedule is already complete, and then we're constrained by that. Why wouldn't we start strategic planning as a part of the master scheduling process so that we can create a schedule that supports the goals that we're trying to reach for our school? And I guess that's the point of this whole season, really. I mean, a lot of obstacles that we currently face in our schools can be fixed with a master schedule. The decisions that you make right now regarding your master schedule will determine what you do next year and how well you do it. And that means that you need to take time right now to set up a master schedule the right way, a way that aligns with your core values, your mission, and your vision. And that way you can eliminate a lot of headaches that you might normally face next year. Let me give you an example. One of my clients had been struggling for years to get more students into honors and AP courses, but their enrollment was stalled. They'd kind of plateaued. And when we looked at the master schedule, we found that the way that the honors and AP courses were scheduled, students could only take one or maybe two courses per year. And the reason was that all the honors classes and all the AP courses were scheduled during the same periods in the day, meaning that if a student took like AP literature, for example, they couldn't take AP calculus because that course was taught at the same time as AP lit, and there was only one section of AP calculus. So what we did is we made a few simple tweaks to the master schedule, and immediately after we did that, AP and honors enrollment went up. I mean, it was dramatic and immediate, and it was simple as looking at the master schedule and making tweaks. Let me give you another example. So another one of my clients struggled to get teachers to do reteaching and retesting. They thought it was important, and the teachers actually thought it was important too, but they couldn't find enough time in the school day to make it happen. I mean, logistically, it was just so hard. And so they were left with, they could either do it before school or after school or not do it at all. So we went in and we looked at their master schedule, and we found an extra 30 minutes in the day that was taken up with other stuff that didn't really matter, that wasn't in alignment with their core values, vision, and mission. We took that time, grouped it together, created a new master scheduling new master schedule. And that way, teachers had an extra 30 minutes during the school day to reteach and reassess without giving up their lunchtime, without working with kids before school and after school. And now they are fully implementing reteaching and reassessment. If you looked at that school from the outside, you might say they're committed to reteaching and reassessment, but they're not doing it consistently. Just changing the master schedule created the space that they needed to do it consistently. And now you could see that they really were committed and they were just, constrained by their master schedule. So here's my point. A lot of obstacles that you're currently facing in your instructional program are a direct result of your master schedule. And the better your master schedule aligns with your school core values and mission and vision, the fewer obstacles that you're going to face in realizing those core values, vision, and mission next year. And it really is that simple. So all season long, we've been talking about turning your biggest obstacles into your biggest opportunities. And so it's fitting in a way that we end this season by talking about your master schedule, because your master schedule is a very good example of why so many of our obstacles exist in the first place. Because if you really look at it, a lot of our obstacles are actually created or at least enabled by us. Think about some of the obstacles we've discussed this season. We've talked about the obstacle of unfocused meetings and lost momentum towards school goals, or the obstacle of teacher resistance, or the obstacle of teachers not implementing our feedback, the obstacle of our own overwhelm and burnout, and the obstacle of stalled initiatives. And you want to know what all of these obstacles have in common? All of these obstacles are preventable. And therein lies the opportunity. The obstacle tells you something's not working. And once you realize it isn't working, you have an opportunity to make it different, to make it better. And that's why next season, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to talk about specific ways that you can set yourself up for success from the very beginning so that you don't face as many obstacles in the first place. The idea here is that the better you are at creating and putting into place systems that set you up for success, the less time you spend putting out fires and the more time you spend building your school or your district. Because after all, that's what builders do. They build. And it's hard to build if you're too busy putting out fires, solving problems that are preventable, or tending an antiquated system that no longer reflects your core values, mission, and vision. If you're going to be a builder, if you're going to build an amazing school or school district that truly reflects your core values, your vision, and your mission, then it's not enough to overcome obstacles. You've got to eliminate them. So, for now, I want you to enjoy your holiday break, relax, and rest up, because next season, you're going to learn how to set yourself up for success like a builder. Now, before we go, don't forget to get your tickets to Builders Lab. If you really want to find out how to eliminate these obstacles, how to overcome the ones that you're facing, how to get everybody in your school moving towards your school goals, towards your school core values, your vision, and your mission, then you need to come to Builders Lab. And so I want you to go to mindstepsinc.com/builders-lab and get your ticket today. So we're going to take a couple of weeks off to enjoy the holidays and rest up, and we'll be back in mid-January with a whole new season of School Leadership Reimagined. In the meantime, here are two things that you can do. One, you can catch up on all of the past episodes, re-listen to them, or catch up on the ones that you've missed by going to schoolleadershipreimagined.com. Plus, we've got transcripts and show notes and free downloads there. So you just check it out at schoolleadershipreimagined.com. Now, the other thing that you can do, and it would be a huge favor to me, is that you can share this podcast with others. So tweet your favorite episodes, share your favorite tip that you've learned on the episodes on LinkedIn. And for goodness sake, if we are not connected on LinkedIn yet, what are you waiting for? Go to LinkedIn right now. You can find me, Robin Jackson, there on LinkedIn, and let's get connected. So let's get the word out to others about School Leadership Reimagined and this tribe of builders that you and I are building together. And finally, I want to take some time right now to thank you. I want to thank you for spending time with me each week, for taking me along with you on your drive to work or on your during your workout or while you're cooking dinner or wherever it is that you listen to this podcast. I want to thank you for being such an amazing tribe of builders. But most of all, I want to thank you for the work that you are doing for your students. It's important, and we need more builders in the world. So thank you for that. Now, go out there and enjoy your break like a builder.
Thank you for listening to the School Leadership Reimagined podcast. For show notes and free downloads, visit schoolleadershipreimagined.com. School Leadership Reimagined is brought to you by Mindsteps, Inc., where we build master teachers.